Welcome back, everybody, to Ravenstar's Witching Hour. I'm your host, Solaris BlueRaven. My incredible guest tonight is Jeff Woolwine. Jeff, we hit a hard break there, and I was muted, and I was talking the whole time before the break, and it didn't come through. But anyways, fantastic information about the giants. And I did want to comment also, we did touch on the Smithsonian and how they destroyed a lot of those old giant skeletons, supposedly, and sold them to private investors. This is, there's evidence, but it's been airbrushed and sanitized, and it's fascinating information, the information you're sharing with us tonight. I really appreciate your hard research and all the hard work you've done over the years.
Well, thank you. I appreciate that. And I'm sorry, did you say you were talking to me during the break?
Yeah, I was actually talking to you before. I was making a comment about what you had said, and we were heading for the break, and I was muted, and of course I realized I was muted. I was like, oh great. So just so you know, but that's what I was trying to wrap up with. Yeah.
Okay, yeah, because I didn't hear you. My bad.
I know, and it was real quiet, so I was like, I better let you know that I was muted. So, yeah. But this is such interesting information, I'll tell you what. Go ahead.
I appreciate that. Thank you so much. Like I say in the book, it's not just a UFO sighting, it's an adventure. Mm-hmm. And I take the audience on the quest with the way the book reads is the first part of it kind of reads like a movie. It takes a fictional character up on South Mountain back in the early days, and he runs into an Indian native chief, and the chief, explains to him all the things that are on South Mountain, all the secrets, myths, and legends, and takes him up on the mountain and shows him what's going on and what things mean, what the petroglyphs mean. And I show photographs, actual photographs on this journey. So it's really neat. It reads like a movie. It's a learning experience as the reader reads through it, as the journey begins and goes through it. It talks about the altars and the tombs. It shows real photographs of the tombs, real photographs of the altars, the pyramid formations, what's concealed inside these pyramid formation mountain hills. It explains on how to read the petroglyphs correctly, how to interpret them, and then it talks about the first park ranger. Now, this is the trail that I take people up on. His name is Charles Holbert. Now, Charles Holbert, he was the very first park ranger here in Phoenix between the early years of 1930s until about the late 1940s, I believe it was. And he was in charge of protecting the landscape. The Native Americans entrusted Charles. They taught Charles the true ways of the desert here, the true myths and legends that was going on here. And he was in charge of protecting the tombs. And studying this and reading his research and digging in real deep about this guy, because it was really hard to find. I don't even know if you can find it now, but I'm glad I did 15 years ago, because now you can't find these documents anywhere. So I'm glad I photocopied everything and I documented everything before things got taken away.
Right.
And I put that in the book. And so he was in charge of protecting everything that was going on here. And one of the stories goes on to say that these tomb robbers was digging up a tomb, and Charles chased them away, with a shotgun and with his six gun. You know what? The archaeologist does not want to admit that the Spanish conquistadors was even next to Phoenix, Arizona. But yet we have a carving out here on the east side of South Mountain, and his name was Francis Dinazia, I believe it was. And there's this date on there that predates the Columbia escapade. This predates Columbia. And the archaeologist doesn't want to admit that the Spanish was even near this area. They think that the Spanish conquistadors traveled a different route. But actually, they did travel here looking for the lost city of Cibola. the city of gold. This is one of the spots that they were looking for gold, for this golden city was Phoenix, Arizona. And so they carved an inscription over here on the east side. Now, during Charles Holbrook days, the city of Phoenix wanted to pull up this rock, pull up this petroglyph, pull up this carving, and move it to the downtown Phoenix area. And Charles was mindset, boy, he was like, you are not touching this stone. You know, he put his foot down on it. He was like, no, you construction workers are not moving this stone at all. It got so bad that he pulled his guns on them. And he's like, dude, you're not touching the stone. This is history, you know. And he was convinced that, yes, the Spanish was here. This is their carving. This is history. And you're not moving it, or, you know, there's going to be a war. Mm-hmm. And so a few days later, the city of Phoenix officials invited Holbrook down into the office. They discussed it a little bit, and they told Charles, well, you know, okay, we'll meet you out there tomorrow morning. Meet us out there tomorrow morning. So Charles, he was in an uproar. He was about ready to go to war with the city of Phoenix over this rock. And instead of pulling out demolition stuff to blow up the rock or to move it, they pulled out steel pipe. And whatchamacallit? I'm tired. They things to weld machines. They pulled out welders, and they actually erected bars over this inscription, and they erected a wall around this inscription. And Charles was pleased about this. You know, he was very adamant. You know, look, and to this day, I show it in the book. The bars erected around, constructed around this petroglyph is still there today. The wall from the city of Phoenix is still there today. And so, yeah, you know, that was one of the accomplishments that he did. Mm-hmm. And he did detours up on South Mountain also. He handed out little flyers, and it talks about the Mayans that were here. It talks about the gold, you know, that the Mayans say that one day, you know, because they will return someday. You know, everyone's waiting for the mines to return back to this valley, you know, to claim the gold and to have things start all over again.
Right.
And it goes. What
happened to the gold, Jeff? I mean, is the gold still there? Do you know, or is it?
Oh yeah, oh yeah. There's tombs out here. There are things out here that you know, the archaeologists fail to admit. You know, they made the mountain a government park. You know, so anything you take off a mountain or you start digging up, you're going to get in trouble. Right. You know, they did that for a reason. You know, this is a big conspiracy going on over here. Not only do we have flying creatures coming and going from this mountain, but we have history of gold and the Mayans that the archaeologist doesn't even admit that they were here. You know, but look at it now. We've got the Spanish and the Mexican population here in Phoenix. So yes, you know, the Mayans, the Mexican Mayans were here along with the Hohokam. Along with several other tribes from different parts of the country would come and gather to this mountain. This was a holy mountain, a sacred mountain for trade, for worship, for sacrifice, and to watch the crazy things that were going on in the skies here. You know, so this is a real populated area. This mountain was, you know, this was it. When you got to South Mountain, when you got to the mountain of Cibola, this was it. The Mountain of Mercy, they called it.
Interesting.
Mount Sapoa, they called it Mount Sapoa back in the day, and this means Mountain of Mercy. And before, you know, the city of Phoenix changed it into South Mountain, you know, 80, 90, almost 100 years ago. Well, about 80, 90 years ago. Well, more than that. But yeah, that was the name, the Mountain of Mercy.
Well,
so yeah, there are tombs here.
Mm-hmm. I was going to ask you, when you say there are tombs there, are there underground tunnels connecting the tombs, or have you excavated, or has anybody been able to get in?
You know, the tombs are, most of them are blocked in. And one tomb that I show in the book, you can find it on YouTube. You can find it on my Facebook page. There's videos on it. You can actually see where somebody very big, very powerful, broke these stones up and threw them into place to conceal, to cover up the doorways into the tombs. Now, this is common. for most of the things that I found out here, the entrances to these tombs, there's boulders. There's huge boulders that are placed in front. And, you know, how they got there, because they didn't have, you know, big machinery back then, so it had to have been somebody very strong, you know, to put this up there. You know, there's boulders that are teeter-tottering, you know, on certain other boulders, and you can tell that it was man-made, that something put, this is not natural, because it's oriented towards the solstice and the equinox and the morning sunrises and sunsets. You know, it's all aligned perfectly. You know, but yet these massive stone-ton boulders are teeter-tottering on other stacks of boulders, you know, and it's like, come on, you know, somebody very big, somebody very powerful moved these stones into position.
Wow.
So back to Holberg. There was rumors back in his day that the Spanish conquistadors were here, and they erected 4 crosses. Okay, so it was rumor back in his day that these crosses even existed. Until one day he was up on a hill and he overlooked these crosses that was on this certain hill. And he didn't tell anybody for a long time. He kept it a secret for about a year. And the story goes on to say that one year the city of Phoenix made a new map of South Mountain, and they put that hill on the map. So Charles, he told the city of Phoenix, well, you know, the 4 crosses is on that hill. Well, back in the day, back at that time, people were still looking for gold. People will still have the Mayan tomb set in their minds. They're out there looking for treasure. And some hoodlums went up there one night. They destroyed the crosses, and they dug a huge hole looking for the gold, and they found nothing. They destroyed the crosses, and this upset Holberg tremendously. And he begged and pleaded for the city of Phoenix to come back up on this mountain and to restore the crosses. The city of Phoenix denied his request, but said, you know, because Holberg was very popular back in the day, anywhere from Boy Scouts to the townspeople. I mean, he was a real famous guy out here. He was the man, you know, and so he had a lot of friends here. And the city of Phoenix said, well, you know, you and your friends can go up there and rebuild them if you like. And so that's what they did. And the story goes on to say that the women and the children made sandwiches and lemonade and drinks for the workers to walk up this hill and construct back the crosses, to make the crosses back new. And unfortunately, one of his friends had a heart attack and died on this quest. And that's when the story kind of disappears. The story gets lost. The story kind of ends like right there. Now the city of Phoenix, back in the day, to deter people away from this information, they released 2 different maps. One map showing the crosses on the east side of South Mountain, and the other map showing the crosses around the middle portion of South Mountain. Now, I've investigated both spots looking for these crosses. I've been doing it for years now, trying to find these crosses, and I can't find any evidence. But I think where they were at one time was probably on the east side, because that's where we found the Spanish conquistador inscription is on the east side. So I'm guessing that the crosses was located on the east side of South Mountain. But one day, the city of Phoenix, they destroyed that part of the mountain, the east side. Most of the east side of South Mountain, at least on one part of it, one certain hill, is completely destroyed. It's gone now. And they put, in the place of this, apartment homes, golf courses, and a restaurant called Rustler's Roost. Now, during this construction, the Indians were protesting these workers and saying death and curse to the workers and to all who play and reside on our sacred ground. Because you know why? When you look at the Google Earth map of South Mountain, especially around the east side, you'll see all these golf courses, right? Well, I found a map that actually shows that these golf courses were actually cemeteries from the Holocaust. These were actually cemeteries located on the east side all around this mountain. So basically what's going on here is these people on the east side over here are living on cemetery ground. and the golf courses are cemetery ground. That's what these old maps that I dug up show. And, you know, I tried to get other people to talk to me about this. You know, the owner of Rustler's Roost, excuse me, one of the relatives is now owning this restaurant, and I've tried for I tried for years to get an interview with this guy because he knows, you know, the true history of what goes on here. But it was so bad back in the day, you know, that he does not want to bring up old memories. He does not want to, you know, that's the conclusion that I've come up because he won't talk to me about this. You know, if there was nothing to hide, then he would come and talk to me. But no, he does not want to talk to me about this. And I think it's because at the time, everybody was pissed off about what was going on. And I think that's where the crosses were located, was on that side of the mountain there. So I believe that the crosses, unfortunately, are gone.
Yeah, you know what's interesting is like the movie Poltergeist, though. It's like, you know, you have apartments and houses over there under sacred burial ground. Wow.
Right.
We're over it.
You know, that's what I like to mention, too. You know, you brought up a perfect point. You know, it's like, well, did they move the bodies, or did they just build on top of them?
And then I have to ask you, are there anomalous activities over there? Have people reported strange things happening in their homes, apartments, or restaurants?
I do not know that. I haven't interviewed anybody that lives over there in that area. I haven't really talked to anybody that's over there, but sure, my guess is, yeah, there probably are some ghosts running around. I'm sure crazy things are happening there. I was going to
say, I bet you there are. There's some supernatural activity over there, probably. Yeah. So you think the crosses were pretty much... Oh, go ahead. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Oh, I'm sorry. But yeah, a real quick point that I wanted to mention. You know, for a year, okay, before I found the information, for a year, I'm going on radio shows, I'm going on TV shows, and I'm finding altars, I'm finding tombs, I'm finding pyramids, I'm finding all the Mayans, I'm finding all of this crazy stuff that the archaeologist isn't talking about. You know, the Indians will talk to me about it, but they won't admit it. You know, they won't come forward, you know, and say, well, yeah, that's what's here. You know, everything's hush-hush. So I'm basically on my own here, you know. And so right before World War II, during President Roosevelt, he during the Depression, he constructed a new. They called it the New Deal, and they hired a bunch of young men called the CCC. I think they call it the Civil Conservation Corps, to live on South Mountain, and the government paid them to dig for mines, to dig for gold and silver. Now, there's tons of mines out here on South Mountain, and I believe that they dug up about $60,000 worth of gold and silver and other precious minerals from South Mountain. And their job was to do that, to construct ramadas, to make it a family park, to construct a trail, and also to blow up petroglyphs. There's a lot of rock devastation out here where the petroglyphs used to be at, and they're all blown up now. Wow. And it really upsets me. And I understanding the rock art, I understand why they did it now. They're trying to clean up the park. They want to make this mountain a family-oriented park. And descriptions of flying serpents and flying demonic creatures and sacrifice and things like that didn't appease to the children that were going to be playing on this park. You know, because there's swing sets out here. There's ramadas and picnic tables and fireplaces and grills and stuff like that. You know, they turn it into a family-oriented place, and they blew up the rock art. Now, a lot of this rock art, once you understand this, okay, once you understand the meaning of the rock art here, you can understand the story. You can understand where these special tombs or where these sacred sites are located at by the rock art.
Right.
For instance, you got to follow like the coyotes and the deers, right? You see a coyote depicted on a wall. He's facing a certain direction. He's facing north. Okay, he's not just there for graffiti. He's not just there to look pretty. he's telling you where the next story is. So you want to follow the direction of where the coyote is looking. He will lead you to the next story. Same with the deers. The deers are faced and are oriented to the next story of what you want to discover or what you want to find out or what the history there. The deer is showing you. When you look at the petroglyphs out here and around the world, you're not just supposed to look at the art, but you're supposed to include the whole landscape in with the art. Because the artist is including the landscape. It's very important to understand the petroglyphs. You have to understand the landscape that it's residing in. They just didn't carve on certain spots because it was neat, because it's graffiti. No, there's a reason why the petroglyphs are there. This is the reason why we find petroglyphs in this area, but right over here, 2 blocks away or 5 steps away, there's no petroglyphs over here, but there's petroglyphs over here because this is a meaning. This is what happens here. It's a testimony. It's a witness. It's a photograph, if you will, of what went on in this area. This is the reason why we find petroglyphs over here. We don't find them over there. Is because nothing happened over there. It happened over here. And so when you look at the deer, for instance, now sometimes the antlers are actually depicting trails that are behind the boulder. So when you look at the deer and you look at the antlers and you step back and you get a broadened perspective of the landscape, you'll notice that the antlers are actually trails going up the sides of the mountain behind him. It's a map. It's a map of where the next story is. Sure.
Wow.
And so
amazing.
The CCC,
Go ahead.
they came in. The CCC, they came in. They blew up a bunch of stuff. They concealed a lot of things. The deer is pointing. You come to where the deer is looking at, and that boulder's all blown up. It's gone. It's destroyed. You can't. You don't.
Wow.
They blew up the history.
Yeah, well, they blew up actually
and then
where you're supposed to go to find whatever's left. I mean, in my opinion, if there's any kind of
it's all
treasure
rubble.
or whatever. Yeah.
Right. To this day, it's all rubble. It's horrible. It looks horrible out there. And the reason for this is because World War II broke out. And once World War II happened, they were all drafted. So everything that they were doing there is still there today, and never came back and cleaned up the park because most of the boys didn't come home, and because of World War II. And so today, those boulders and everything out, the devastation, the dynamite evidence of the boulders being blown up is still there. There's huge rings, metal concrete rings to lift these boulders up and move them into place are still there. Even some of the tracks and the mines are still there. Some of the mines are still open, and you can go and investigate it. That's in the book also. But, so anyway, my point is, for a year, I'm talking about this. And it was only me. I didn't have really anything to back it up except for my photographs, except for my videos. Nothing in history to back up my claim until I investigated the CCC. So I went to the Phoenix Government Department, and I asked them if they had anything on South Mountain. And they gave me a big folder. And in the folder, it talked about Holbert. It talked about what he did here. It talked about the Mayan tombs. It talked about the spirits that were here. It talked about the CCC. It had photographs of this and that. I mean, it was jackpot. For a year, I've been talking about this, and now I open up this folder, and there's my proof positive of everything that I discovered sitting in front of my face, and I was overwhelmed. And old maps showing where the Hohokam canal systems were, old maps on where the Hohokam villages were, just all this crazy history. I'm like, woo, jackpot. So I photographed all this information back in the day, like 15 years ago. And like I said earlier before, I'm glad I did because now I've gone back to that folder and some of that stuff is missing now. It's not in the folder anymore.
Oh, wow.
So I'm glad that I grabbed it. I'm glad that I grabbed it when I did and stuck it in the book because now you can't find that information anywhere else now within my book.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah,
that's excellent. Wow. So you were talking about the canal systems. Now, obviously, that was where water was running, but no longer, right?
The Holocoms were master canal builders. They were the best sophisticated construction canal makers in the world. But when you look at the landscape, you can clearly see that there was waterfalls here. It was not dried up and desolated like it is now. It was not a desert back in the day. It was a tropical-like landscape. Okay, so water was everywhere. When you look at South Mountain, there's tons of dried up waterfalls. There's a water creek going through the mountain there. There's canals from the Holcomb that were constructed there, So there was tons of water here. Mm-hmm. And, the story goes on to say that, to make sure the seasons would go correctly to satisfy these entities in the sky, sacrifice must be performed. And it was mostly, the stories go on to say it was children that was being sacrificed, and it was enemies of the Holocom that was being sacrificed, and special elected people to please the gods were sacrificed. And for reasons unknown, the sacrificing stopped. And when that stopped, that's when the tropical-like landscape turned into a desert, and it's been a desert ever since, because the blood has stopped pouring down the sides of the rocks to please the Phoenix Light, basically, to please these entities in the sky.
Wow.
So let's go on to say, well, because people are coming to me and they're like, dude, if the aliens are here, how come they're not contacting us? How come they're not coming down and talking to us? Why are they simply just in the sky? Why aren't they coming down and letting us know that they're here? And my reply is, well, you have to look at the history of these things. And the history on these creatures is when man first interacted with these creatures, man did not know how to live here. These creatures taught mankind how to survive, how to live. And in return, they worship these things as God. And one of the evidence that I brought up earlier was the Spider Woman and how they were able to watch her web in the sky to make baskets, things like this. Well, there's tons of carvings of lizard men on the rocks out here. Six-figure men with tails. And the story goes on to say that these lizard men came up out of the sand world, taught these people how to live, and then promised to return someday. I was explaining this today in the tour with the lizard man. There's a belly. There's like a circle. We have a six-figure man. He's in the appeasement pose, which is arms raised over his head. He has a circle in his belly, and then he has legs and a tail. And I can say that circle in his belly is interpreted by he's halfway in the underworld, halfway out of the underworld. He's coming into our world. Mm-hmm. But my interpretation of these things and watching these orbs in the sky and seeing what they do and investigating the petroglyphs, like I said earlier, these things are shape shifters. Okay, so these orbs in the sky that we're seeing today actually shape-shift into the likeness of man. Okay, they like to look like, there's tons of petroglyphs, there's tons of videos that I recorded of these things looking like animals. They look like a sheep. They look like a serpent. They look like, animals, if you will. And there's tons of evidence, tons of petroglyphs out there depicting a type of animal in the sky and people looking up at this animal in the sky. But it's not an animal. It's a creature. It's a UFO spirit. It's a entity. It's one of their gods, if you will. So, wow. Man, so
interesting. You called it a UFO spirit. That's an interesting terminology. Yeah,
it's like to Indians, to the Native Americans, it's spirit. To the Bible, it's Nephilim. To us, it's UFOs. you know, in our day and age, you know, because,
right.
you know, this is what we're taught to, even
right, the
what
language
we
changes
understand,
over the
you know,
decades. Yeah, you're right. Go ahead.
that, yeah, right. So I can't put them in spirit UFOs, you know, because it's spirits and it's UFO stuff. So basically, that's how I, you know, describe them, because of the interpretation throughout generations of what these things have been called.
Right.
So yeah, so when everything hit the fan back in the day, when the sacrificing stopped, the people were taken away. That's when, like, mankind didn't need them. You know, we don't need them anymore. If UFOs came down right now, if these creatures came down and said, "Hey, we're here," it would be frontline news for a little bit, for a little while. But then our lifestyle would go back, because we'd have to go back to work, we'd have to go back to school, we have to go back to paying rent, and we just don't have UFO. You know, there's no room for UFOs in our life right now. But if something was to happen, let's say the Earth was destroyed and 2/3 of mankind is gone, and there's no water, there's no food, there's radiation everywhere. It's unfit to live. You know, man is starving. Man needs something. They will see these lights in the skies. They will see these serpents in the skies. They will see these orbs in the sky. One will come down. He will shape-shift into a man. He will make miracles happen. He will clean up the waters. He will clean up the air. He will give us food. In return, he wants stuff to start all over again. He wants us to worship he wants us to worship him one more time, as it was in the beginning. So basically what's going on now is what the Bible likes to call, and what I like to call, watchers. They're simply watching what's going on in the sky. You know, it's interesting, because when mankind goes to war with each other, as far as World War II, we had the Foo Fighters, the Gulf War, we've got the Phoenix Lights, you know. As war starts to escalate around the world, UFOs really start to show up, don't they? You really see a mass sightings of UFOs when mankind is fighting with each other. But when things are kind of calm, that's when the UFOs are kind of calm. But when things start to escalate more and more and more, there's a mass UFO, you know, sightings all over the world. And they're getting prepared, you know. Like it says in the book, nobody knows.
Sightings have increased too, right, Jeff, over the decades. Yeah.
Oh yeah. You know, in 2005, when I watched them in 2005, the whole year. I noticed the UFOs were here this month, the UFOs were here this month, the UFOs were gone this month, the UFOs were gone that month, the UFOs came back this month, the UFOs came back this month, the UFOs are gone this month. You know, I was like, hey, that's pretty neat. When in 2006, it repeated itself. That was a secret on when to see these things, what time to see these things, what month, what seasons, blah, blah, blah. I tracked them just like the Holcombs did in the sky with the sun, but there were more of them. It was like a little UFO invasion that was going on South Mountain in 2006. It was neat in 2005. It was incredible in 2006. And since I haven't been living over there since, I can only imagine what's going on there now. I'm sure it's increased.
Right. Yeah. No kidding. So is it more in the daytime or at nighttime, or can you even be up there at night?
You know, they're starting to shut down the park at nighttime. You can still go up there. I think they shut it down around 9 or 10. Unfortunately, what's been going on South Mountain, and hasn't been going on for the past 60 years, is the city of Phoenix just got granted in the last year or two over $3 million to restore South Mountain. So they're putting in new picnic tables, they're putting in new bathrooms, they're making new trails, and they're putting in guard entrances, and we're going to have to start paying now. It's horrible. We're going to have to start paying money to get into South Mountain Park now. So I don't know what I'm going to do about my tours. We're going to start parking somewhere else and walk into the thing, you know, because now they want their money back. And how they're going to get their money back is to charge people for going up on the mountain. But
yeah.
you can't spend the night up there. There's no camping trails, and I don't think I would want to spend the night up there anyway alone.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it's kind of creepy up there.
Yeah, it's very
But,
supernatural. I
you
would
know,
assume it's pretty charged energetically. Yeah.
right, yeah, you know, so, and that's basically what's going on. Like, we were there today, and it's just, oh my gosh, the construction crews and the workers, and it's sad what's really going on.
It's really a shame. Well, they've hiked
really
up all the
upsets me.
rates at all of these parks now, so it's getting ridiculous to a point where people can't even enjoy the national parks because they're charging or
That's
overcharging.
right.
Yeah, it's just foolish.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's right. And, you know, they're just using the excuse. They're looking for new park rangers, you know. So more people, you know, I'm not happy about it, but
No, I wouldn't
what
be.
can you do, you know?
Right. It's a crazy world, but such incredible information you're sharing tonight. I'll tell you what, this is very, very interesting data. And it's so unique, as I said before, nobody else has gone on this level of information the way you do, and I really appreciate this. I think it's really important. And if people want to reach out to you, the best way would probably be your website. You have a website, right?
It has been down for a few years now. I kind of been working on it. I'm kind of waiting for this book to get published so I can bring the website back up. But I'm all over the web. Just type in my name, Jeff Woolwine. Yeah, I'm in the YouTube. But the best way to get a hold of me right now is on Facebook, Petroglyphs in the Sky. And there you'll see new sightings. You'll see live broadcasts of me up on South Mountain conducting tours, new photographs of petroglyphs, new photographs of evidence, new sightings over the years. Because, you know, when the UFOs are in town, they come and see me. So I always have my camera ready and I'm filming them. So
nice.
Constantly, every year, there's new sightings that's been going on with me.
Wow.
So, yeah, you can follow me on Facebook, and I give updates on how and where and how everything is going on, you know, with South Mountain and stuff like that. So the best way to get a hold of me is on Facebook right now.
Yeah, that's good. And also you do that. I love that live stream you're doing on Facebook so people can actually take a trip with you and watch what you're doing over there when you're taking your tours.
Yeah, we had someone from France watching. We have people all over the world. It's awesome,
nice.
You know, that, you know, come and visit us, you know, without even physically being here, but they can see, you know, what I'm talking about, and they can, you know, see what's going on. And it's really neat. Sometimes the tours, we do see UFOs out there. Sometimes we do see the orbs, and that's like the best. That's like the cherry on top. You know, it's so cool. I'm doing a tour, and there's an orb up there, you know. So yeah. I just love it when other people witness it, you know, with me. It's neat to see it by yourself, but it's even better when you have someone else seeing it with you, you know.
Right.
Because it's a witness, you know, not only
absolutely.
The camera, but you got somebody else saying, dude, I saw that stuff too. You know, my friend Jason, you know, we go up on South Mountain a lot. We hike up there. We've been exploring. And for like 5 years, you know, he hasn't seen a UFO with me. He's with me, you know, a lot. We're up there on South Mountain, and I'm like, dude, what are you guys' problems? Just come. You know, Jason needs to see you. You know, well, one day last year, it happened. We were coming out of a cave or something, and we were taking a break, and lo and behold, there was an orb right there, so close to us, man. Just sitting there watching it. So I was like, dude, there it is. And I grabbed the camera. Well, I first pointed it out to make sure he saw it, because it was so important. You know, for years, we've been up on that mountain, and he just hasn't seen a UFO with me. You know, if I can go up there by myself and I can see him, or I can come away from the mountain and I can see him. But, you know, to have somebody with you on the mountain and witnessing what you're seeing and having them go, dude, I don't even know what that is. You know, it's great. It's awesome. I love it.
Yeah, that's really interesting. You know what comes to mind also, and I know it's kind of it's kind of out there, but I think about all these live streams on the Facebook, and I think to myself, maybe 10 years from now, we might even be seeing people on other planets live streaming for different planets. You know, it's just getting so weird.
Wouldn't that be interesting?
Yeah, I mean, seriously.
Yeah.
Yeah, it seems like we're all just a window away in the world here. I mean, we can go from country to country just by the internet alone with live streaming. So think about that on a galactic scale. So it's really interesting on that level.
Yeah, you know, and that's just another prophecy there. You know, it says when Jesus comes back that the whole world will be an eyewitness. Well, the way
Wow,
technology
very
is moving
interesting.
around, man.
A lot of
We're going to see
correlation.
these UFOs in the sky. Yeah, everyone's going to see it all at the same time, whether it's on their phones, computers, on their television. They're going to see it, man. So that's it. That's what's up.
Mm-hmm. And I do want that book, Petroglyphs in the Sky, out. So running the energy to get that thing out there and published, whether you put it in a PDF or whatever, because people need to read it. They really do.
Yeah, so what I've done over the years is I screenshotted over 1,200 screenshots of the book, and I put it all in order, and I put it on a flash drive. So what I've been doing lately, the people that, want a copy of the book, the unedited version, I mail it out to them on a flash drive. It cost me $10 for the flash drive, and it cost me another couple bucks to send it out. So it is money out of my pocket. But it is worth it for them to actually see it and read it. So I've been getting a lot of good feedback on it. And, so once the completed book is out, I just can't wait. Yeah, I've been waiting for years. My fans, my followers have been waiting for years.
Everybody's impatient, yeah.
I've been talking for over 20 years, for over 15 years, 20 years now. I've been talking about this thing, and, I'm really done talking about it. It's time to get out. It's time to get the information out there. I have a lot of great information, and I have a lot of good facts, a lot of good theories on what's going on here. It's a whole new take on the Phoenix Lights. I've been doing this for over 15 years now, and now, like I said earlier, these so-called experts are just now coming to the conclusion, that maybe this is a living being, this is another life form. And what's going on, too, is a lot of these people, they steal other people's work, and they portray it like they're the ones that figured it out.
Yeah, and then they're getting paid $8,000 for presentation, for a presentation somewhere. Yeah, no, that's totally true. Copy and paste.
And they fail to to mention where they learned this information at, because, nobody heard of flying serpents here in Arizona or on the west side of the United States, petroglyphs, and now, I'm watching the television and these TV shows are talking about petroglyphs and flying serpents, and you know what? They learned that from me. I was the first one to talk about that.
Yeah, they have a lot of people that data mine too, and they'll listen to your interviews or whatever, and then they'll run to Hollywood and write a script about it. No, they do that all the time. All the time.
Absolutely. Absolutely. But, I've written an article in 2005 with the UFO magazine talking about my findings, all my documents on my videos, the time and date stamp, all the articles I've done, all the TV shows that I've done. That's my backup, that I was the first one to talk about this. So anyone new coming in and trying to say, the stuff that I've already been saying and trying to play it off like they were the ones that did it, if the audience examines the facts and does the research, it'll all boil down to my work.
That's right. Yeah,
I was the first one to do this.
Yep. You are.
Yeah.
And that's the good benchmark you have. You have a great benchmark, and that's what I like about it, too. That's a time capsule that nobody can replicate. And it's the beauty of it. Sometimes the internet is a benefit or a curse, but when you have stuff like that that's been out there forever and people can actually track it and see and know. So, yeah, I agree with you on that one. And I probably asked you this before, but have they done a lot of extensive, ground-penetrating radar over there around that mountain or anything like that? I didn't think so. I was just curious, though.
It stopped. When Holbert passed away, all his information was tucked away in the government archives, because when Holbert was alive, he was talking about the tombs, he was talking about the spirits, he was talking about the Mayans. All this was still fresh in people's minds, and it got people in trouble, because they go up there looking for the gold and looking for stuff, And so when he passed away, it was the perfect opportunity to bury the hatchet on this, to keep this information away from the public. And they did a very good job for the past 80 years until I came around. And now I'm restoring all this information back into the public information age, bringing this information back And you know what? I haven't said anything that hasn't been said before. Everything that I have been saying tonight, it's been saying for years. It's just, is bringing back the story. You know, I'm the one that's bringing back the true history of Phoenix, the true history of the Phoenix Lights, what really happened here to the Holocom, and no one's talking about. You know, I did my investigation, I did my research, and and I'm bringing back Holberg. I'm resurrecting his work and what he did, because, you know, he was the first one, you know, in the Americas anyway, to understand what was going on here, besides the Indians, you know, to keep this stuff, you know, away from, you know, prying eyes and this and that, to protect things, you know. And then when I found his folder, you know, after a year of research and now I'm finding everything that he's done, and then I verified it, it just all fell into place. You know,
absolutely.
so I knew I was right. There was something else that just added that I was right about those. And I never once will change anything that I have been saying. I've been saying this for 20 years now, and I am not changing, never, because this is the truth. I have everything to back it up on, and that's it. So if people really want to doubt me or really want to investigate what I'm doing, I'll for it. I want people to come back to this mountain. That's the whole point of the book. That's the whole point of my research, is to bring people back to this mountain and investigate it for themselves. Get out on the mountain, see the UFOs, see the tombs, see what I'm talking about and what goes on here and the true history of what's going on here, you know?
Absolutely.
So, yeah,
I'd love
before,
to see you have like a welcome center or something. It's too bad you can't have some kind of a little library there and just do so you can draw people over to explain some of this data. Be kind of nice. I could see you doing that.
That would be
I don't know
awesome
what they'd
too.
let you do over there. I mean, they're so weird with, you know, political stuff these days. But yeah, you have so much information. I have to thank you for all the research you've done over the years. Yeah, it's been incredible. I'm so glad you came back on the show. It's been too long. I'll have to have you back sooner. You know, it seems like it's been.
It's been awesome.
Yeah, it's
so
always wonderful.
Thankful. Thank you so much for having me. Great.
Yeah, it's always a pleasure. And I know we're almost out of time, but we have I think we have 10 minutes actually, plus or minus here. I did want to ask you something. You know, your connection to these life forms is very unique. And I have to ask you, do you feel like you're a contactee of some kind? Because you act like one.
You know, the evidence speaks for itself, you know. I didn't find UFOs. I was so far from UFOs, you know, 20 years ago, you know, like, you know, before I got into this, you know, I had heard about the Phoenix Lights, you know, but I didn't witness them, you know, and then all of a sudden I just started paying attention in the sky, and I'm seeing these things everywhere I went, whether it was New York, whether it was California, whether it was here in Phoenix. It didn't matter where I went, there was something in the sky, and it made me investigate these things. It made me it brought me to this point where we're talking today. You know, I didn't find them. They found me. I just started watching them back. The more I studied them, the more they were coming to me. And, you know, it's really interesting because the myths and legends says that these petroglyphs, some of them have the power to invoke the spirit. Well, I've done that many times. The first time it was the test. I said, hey, you guys are cool. Why don't you come and see me? Well, about a few days later, a big flying serpent came out of that canyon where I was talking to him at, and it climbed about 1,000 feet into the sky, and then it went over the apartment complex, and I'm filming this thing, and it's over like 100,000 hits on YouTube now. That sighting has gone global, that flying serpent there. And that was the very first test of me talking to him and trying to evoke him out. Now, ever since then, I've tried other spots, and I have successfully found 3 spots where you can go up there and you can talk to him, acknowledge him, and you will either see him that day or you will see him, you know, sometime that week. Or it's like, you know, you go to their house and they're going to come to your house. You know, you go see them, they're going to come and see you. You know,
right. And are the petroglyphs actually So the petroglyphs are actually almost a trigger to communicate?
Yeah. You know, it's kind of weird. I'm kind of hesitant to say this, but yeah, I would have to admit they have some kind of magical powers. I don't know what's up with this. You know.
Well, it sounds like it from what you're describing, and you also, the way you describe that these type of life forms go in and out of these petroglyphs as if there's a portal or a dimensional gateway.
Yeah.
That's fascinating to me. I think that's very unique and very interesting, and it sounds like it's highly probable too, because everything is energy and consciousness when it boils down to it. So, very fascinating.
And it's neat. The more people hang around, with me, like my wife, I just got married.
Yeah, congratulations, and tell her I said hello.
Yeah, thank you. I sure will. I sure will. I appreciate that. It's like she really hasn't seen anything, until she started, hanging around me, and now she's seeing them all the time now. It's like, wow, there's one, and it's like the more someone spends time with me, the more likely they're going to see them. So it's interesting. You spend time with me, then, you're going to see them eventually,
Wow.
One of the
do they follow
questions
you
I
home,
like to ask
Jeff?
them is cool.
Do these things follow you home? They do. Okay. I was just curious.
Oh, yeah, they have followed me. But you know what? Like I said earlier, there's black helicopters and there's airplanes. And, just real quick on these things, someone else has been watching these things a lot longer than I have, and they're not talking about it. They're just keeping hush about this because as we went over the show, I believe, and I think that the government believes, they know exactly what is to come, that these things, have a history with mankind, and their history is not very good. They're not here to cure cancer. They're not here to help us out. They're here to repeat the stuff that they happened last time that they were here, sacrifice, worship, things like that. Until the good angel comes down, God, Jesus, this and that, we're talking Revelations here, happens. I'm a true believer in this, and I believe the government is a true believer in this. And so what they're doing is just simply watching what's going on out here on South Mountain and some of these other mountains that are hot spots. Because it's not just South Mountain. The whole mountain around this valley is created by fault lines. So wherever there's a fault line, it's going to attract these creatures to the energy.
Mm-hmm. Right. And when you say fault lines, you're talking ley lines too, or no?
Right, yeah. Anything that attracts the energy. The fault lines, the ley lines, the energy lines, they're all pretty much the same thing. They attract, that's what these entities are going after, is they're absorbing the energy here.
Mm-hmm.
There, in 2004, real quick, when I'm watching the lights on the east side of South Mountain, there was little white airplanes, little white Cessnas, okay? They circle real high up into the sky over this power plant, all right? These lights would pop in above this power plant. These airplanes would zoom in after them, and as soon as I got within a mile radius of these lights, the lights would disappear. The airplanes would come in and circle that area for like 10 minutes, and then the airplanes would go high back up into the sky, circle, and then what happens next? The lights come right back. They come back over the power plant. They start absorbing the energy. Here come the airplane, chasing these lights away. Now, when that serpent came out of South Mountain, I'm videotaping it. It was motionless in the sky above my head. It's doing formations. It's doing neat things until an airplane started heading its way, a little white Cessna. When that happened, that thing took off. It went from South Mountain all the way across the valley and into another mountain called Paiosula Peak, formerly known as Squaw Peak. Energy.
And Jeff, with that being said, we are out of time. I must say thank you so much for joining us. It's a pleasure to have you on. Everybody, thanks for tuning in tonight. Remember to follow Jeff's work, Jeff Woolwine, Petroglyphs in the Sky. Don't forget to stay tuned for Shy to Sign Out with David Dudger Becky. Coming up next to sell you on tonight, like they always do with their fantastic show. They'll be discussing quantum connection to the physical. That'll be very interesting. All right, Jeff, thank you so much. Have a great weekend, everybody.
Thank you so much.
Good night.
Radio at freedomslips.com, and we'll be right back after this message. Take a look around, kid. What do you see? Homes being foreclosed. People working 2-3 jobs just to put food on the table and still drowning in debt. Don't get me wrong. This country was founded on great ideals and principles. They've all been ruined by the banks. Open your eyes to banks that are robbing you. You know who my favorite president was? Who? Thomas Jefferson. Because he saw all of this coming and tried to stop it. He fought the banks. JFK too, and they killed him for it. The banking institution is more dangerous than an army, he said. He also said that every generation needs a revolution, Jimmy. The American dream is just that. Just a dream. War is a continuation of politics, only by other means. Politics is a continuation of economics by other means. This is our bank. This is our war. And this is our plan of attack.
Banks have become an essential trait to our democracy. So consider this justice.
Thank you for listening to Revolution Radio at freedomslips.com, the #1 listener-supported radio station on the internet. Please help support this station so this battle can continue forward. Revolution Radio!
This is the people's war. It is our war. We are the fighters. Fight it then. Fight it with all that is in us. And may God defend the right.
Warning! Warning!
We gotta stop them! They're gonna kill us all! See how the trouble you've started? Be they the government, be they industry, be they organized labor, be they anyone, or human beings. Time when the operation of the machine becomes so odious, makes you so sick at heart that you can't take part. You can't even passively take part. And you've got to put your bodies upon the gears and upon the wheels, upon the levers, upon all the apparatus, and you've got to make it stop. And you've got to indicate to the people who run it, to the people who own it, that unless you're free, the machine will be prevented from working at all.
Revolution Radio at freedomslips.com, the #1 listener-supported talk radio station, throwing ourselves upon the gears of the machine. Revolution Radio, where information never sleeps.
You called down the thunder, well now you